I once said that the fourth dimension is both shamanic and Masonic, and then was asked by a third of the people in the comments for months after that to elaborate on what I meant. So today it is my pleasure to give a more in-depth description of what exactly the fourth dimension is, especially since it's the prelude to our beloved 5D that so many of us are already communing with and anchoring into this realm. And at the end of this video, I will directly explain why the fourth dimension is both shamanic and Masonic. The fourth dimension is special in the sense that it is the widest of the energetic domains. It has the largest bandwidth of frequency of all the dimensions inside this universe. It has such a broad range of subset realities and such a rich playing field that if there were only one thing to take away from this, it would be that the fourth dimension is entirely composed of subset realities. It is the most multidimensional of the dimensions. So it can actually be broken up into the lower fourth dimension and the higher fourth dimension due to how many levels co-inhabit this bandwidth of space and time, yet have vastly contrasting and defining characteristics. The clearest illustration of this contrast is our concept of heaven and hell. The hell realms and the heavenly realms all reside inside the fourth dimension. That's right, heaven and hell aren't as far removed from one another as we may think they are. They both occupy different levels of the fourth dimension. The majority of our belief systems, especially all religious belief systems, are located and occupy some level of the channels within the fourth dimension. They cannot go any higher than the fourth dimension because they are a subjective subset reality that does not accurately reflect the truth of our eternal and infinite nature. They are a mental construct of some kind that is given its own energetic parameters to play out each belief system at different levels in the astral plane. But they are still real to a certain degree. Our thoughts and energy and the amount of attention that we feed into these belief systems make them real enough in their own domain, even if they are not the absolute truth. So although all dimensions are expressing a version of existence and have a perspective that holds a specific gravity, the broad range of experiences that the fourth dimension offers is less concise. The lower astral planes within the fourth dimension all contain ghosts and discarnate spirits. Some of the levels within the fourth dimension also contain malevolent and hostile hyperdimensional entities. So when we talk about negative hyperdimensional entities, they reside somewhere within the construct of the fourth dimension. There are many esoteric names for the fourth dimension that try to capture the dynamic play of essence that takes place at this level of being. The realm of the gods and the archetypal realm are both names that best describe the power within this realm. The godheads of every religion reside inside the fourth dimension, as well as the ascended masters and all of our favorite deities. If you pray to a specific god or invoke certain beings for some sort of assistance, chances are they most likely reside within the fourth dimension. We all need our fragile fictions, and it's quite common for us to put the responsibility that we don't feel ready to embody onto whichever divine figure we share an affinity with. Which is why some of the more benevolent presences inside the fourth dimension pull back from directly aiding us when they feel that their support is making us too dependent on them. I have said this before, and I will say this again. No entity in their correct energy wants to have a childlike, worship-based relationship with you. The Masonic themes of light triumphing over darkness, good versus evil, all reside inside the fourth dimension. Meaning the duality that we experience here, whether it's depicted as a checkerboard or through religious imagery of archangels slaying demons, are all central themes to the fourth dimensional arena. It's not to say that evil does not exist, because evil very much does exist, and in more than one form. But the metaphysical battle between forces of light and good, and the forces of darkness and evil, are themes that are generated and projected from the fractured mind of the fourth dimension, which is then depicted in epic metaphor through religious art, holy books, and the collective unconsciousness itself. It's entirely Masonic due to the overarching theme of duality, as well as the rites and rituals that take place to align oneself with certain forces. And last, due to the central feature of higher degrees of knowledge leading to more exalted and elevated rank and position to their Godhead. The fourth dimension is the only dimension, other than the third, where such elaborate efforts would be invoked for an individual to orient themselves towards the divine. Whereas the fourth dimension is hierarchical in nature, the fifth dimension and beyond are spherical in nature. The cosmic Christ figure has also transformed in the fifth dimension and beyond. Instead of being an external savior, it is an awakened cosmic consciousness, embodied within the sovereign being. This is also the arena of space and time where the false light resides. The false light is the biggest challenge to an ascending soul. So if you would like to know all about the false light, let me know in the comments, and if enough people are interested, I'll make a video explaining this concept in depth. The most famous of Hermetic axioms, as above, so below, is referring to the fractal nature of reality, meaning we can understand the nature of what is higher or above us by studying the nature of what is below, which in this case is ourselves and this reality. Due to this law of correspondence, the fourth dimension is the most relevant of all dimensions to our physical experience, because the fourth dimension is where the third dimension is actually projected from. When we examine our nature and apply that upward, what we are doing is understanding how the duality, survivalism, and hierarchy within the ego holds the closest reflection in the characteristics of the fourth dimensional realities. And for us to know a higher nature beyond that would require us to access the higher nature within ourselves and within our own being. Physics refer to the fourth dimension as the space-time dimension, commonly depicted as the tesseract. But what is less known is that space and time form a fabric. We can regard this fabric as connective tissue, or better yet, a matrix. And this matrix holds the majority of our coding in the third dimension. So not only does it hold the energetic blueprint for our physical incarnation, known as the etheric template, but it also is where the chakra system is projected from. Chakras are a fourth dimensional projection overlaid onto our energy field. They emanate from the fourth dimension and are reconfigured into a one system heart center at a certain point during our own evolutionary process. All of the places a shaman traverses to heal the soul are located somewhere within the fourth dimension. Whether it's journeying into the underworld to break contracts, or retrieve an aspect of the soul in the state of soul loss, to recalibrate the chakra system of an individual, or to invoke the assistance of a nature spirit, and so forth. The protocols and methods that shamans utilize for healing, as well as the altered states of consciousness that the shaman journeys to on behalf of the soul, both engage with the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is the phase of consciousness where universal consciousness starts to really fragment. Fragment to the extent that the concept of God and the devil enter the scene. Beyond the fourth dimension, the being we know as God is known as Source or universal consciousness. However, the lower in dimensions we go, the more condensed of a wavelength we experience, meaning the more separate, dense, and divided of an expression consciousness manifests as. And this division applies even to Source. So the fourth dimension is where Source fragments into the duality of God and the devil. But in this case, the devil is simply the shadow of what we know as God. So God can be looked at as the ultimate ego trip in the entire multiverse, because God at this level of being takes credit and ownership for all of creation, seeks worship, and needs us to be sheep, when in reality we are simply experiencing spiritual amnesia from our true identity as sovereign beings. So Source is the higher expression of God, and God is the ego, the lower dimensional expression of Source consciousness. What this means is that ultimately, God and the devil are not separate forces, but divided into distinct personas of universal consciousness, once wavelengths oscillate slower, condensing matter and allowing us to experience maximum separation. To put this another way, Source has multiple personality disorder. So if the fifth dimension is where the party's at, the fourth dimension is one hell of a ride we gotta go through to get there. You don't have to love it, chances are you pray to it, but regardless of whether we love it, hate it, or even fear it. We must respect it, both for its power and its purpose. I hope this has helped clarify the shamanic and Masonic qualities of the fourth dimension. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakenings. See you next time.